I want to talk to you about several ways that we mount our Starlink satellite dish to our RV without permanently installing anything. So our family's been using Starlink and it's been awesome. It's a little bit expensive, but it's allowed us to be connected in places we otherwise would not have had any connectivity. Now Starlink comes with a metal stand that you can place the dish in and then set it out on the ground anywhere you'd like. There's two reasons that I decided that I wanted to mount the dish instead of just solely using that metal stand that it came with. And those two reasons are, one, obstructions in line of sight, being able to get it up high enough sometimes to clear things such as other RVs, buildings, or trees, other obstructions of that clear northern sky that I need to access. And also protection. One, minorly, is from theft. If somebody steals your dish, they're not gonna be able to use it because it's tied to your router and to your account. So even if they took the hardware, they're not gonna be able to do it. But this does make it a little less pilferable, and that people have to take it off of something that's mounted in order to walk away with it. The second one, though, is more important to me, and that's just having it off the ground in the campsite. Kids, pets, lawn mowers at the campground, other campers backing up their vehicles or their rigs. I've seen so many accounts of people's dishes that were on the ground that the person backing up just didn't see it and ran right over the dish. So getting it up off the ground just keeps it safer from a multitude of perspectives and allows you to get better line of sight to that northern sky that you need to get good speeds with the satellite dish. So the way that I've chosen to mount the Starlink dish to my rig is by using a flagpole. And then I got a 3D printed bushing adapter from a small company called Remotely Connected on Etsy. I'll make sure to put links to all the gear that we're using in here in the video description. But basically it's a 3D printed bushing that you slide into the top of the flagpole, and then the Starlink satellite dish clicks right into this bushing and securely sits on the top of that flagpole. Now there's several options of 3D printed adapters out there to use on top of poles or flagpoles, and Starlink even has their own metal pole adapter. The reason that I like this one from Remotely Connected is that it actually slides inside the aluminum housing of the flagpole, and then the dish stem slides inside of that. So everything is kind of stacked in each other and adding support to each other. I've seen some other versions where the 3D printed plastic piece slides over the pole and then the dish stem slides inside of that. Well, that's just relying on the 3D printed plastic for all of the tension and the torque that's going to be put on it. Whereas the bushing that goes inside of it is you got the bushing and then the aluminum housing of the flagpole and then the stem inside of that. It's all compact. And if anything were to ever fail, which based off of how this bushing feels, I don't think that's ever going to be a problem. But if it would, the dish would just slide down to the pole and you would have no problems. The other ones, if it cracks or breaks, your dish is falling off from however tall you have your flagpole set. And if you want to talk more about RVs, DIY projects, gear reviews, best practices, all things RVs, make sure you come over and check out our free group over at rvgearandfar.com. I'll put a link in the description below. Now this bushing is super easy to install. I know that Remotely Connected has gone through several generations. Some of them had you drill a little bit bigger holes. The newer ones, that you're just using the same holes that came with it, so you don't actually have to modify the flagpole at all. It just slides down in, then you put the two screws in to hold it in place, then drop your Starlink dish in and it clicks in. And I like that too. Just like the stand that came with the Starlink, there's a positive connection. It goes in and it clicks, which means in order for it to come back out, you actually have to depress the button and pull it out. Then once the dish is on top of the flagpole, I can just telescope it up to the height that I need to clear the surrounding obstructions, plug it in and get connected to the internet. So now I've got the dish on top of the flagpole, but now I need to mount the flagpole. And that's what I want to share with you next. I've got several options for doing so. The option that I like the most and has worked the best for us is using a hitch mounted flagpole holder off the back of our RV. Now our RV did not come with a hitch mount, so I ordered a bolt-on one and then slid this hitch mount flagpole holder into that. And it allows me to get the flagpole up off the ground and then extend it above the roof of my RV and clear any of those obstructions around. Originally, the bottom of this flagpole holder is capped. I thought I was gonna have to cut off that cap to slide the flagpole down to the ground and give it a little extra stability, but I've not had any concerns about how stable it is or how much it moves with that bottom cap being on there and the flagpole actually being off the ground, only connected to the bumper. And it actually turns out that I like it up off the ground. I don't have to worry about what's on the ground below the bumper of my campsite. It's worked out well and I didn't have to modify anything. So we clamped the receiver to the bumper and then put the hitch mount flagpole holder into that receiver and tightened down the anti-sway bolt. Now I just leave that 100% on my bumper the whole time. You may or may not want to take off the flagpole holder every time you move. For me, I found that I just leave it on and keep it on and then just take the flagpole in and out as we're traveling. So when we arrive at a campsite and we need to set up Starlink, we have our router placed inside of our rig plugged into 120 volt power. The router is sitting inside of a media cabinet I made, and originally I thought that the aluminum panels might obstruct some of the signal from that router, but we've not had any issues with it, and it's nice to have it out of the way and tucked into a cabinet. Then we take that power over Ethernet cord that comes with the Starlink and we run it out the gasket of our slide before it's fully extended. So as it's halfway in and out, we run the cord out and then pull it out the length that we need to be able to get up as high as we need for connection to the dish. Then we fully extend the rest of the slide and the cord just runs through that weather gasket. Now we ended up putting a little bit of painter's tape at the point of the cable that we know is the highest we usually go, typically when we have it mounted to the back of the RV. That way we don't have to pull out all the extra 15, 20 feet of cable that we're not actually currently using. And so if we're connecting the dish to the back of our RV, that's what we do. We plug in the cable, hook it up to the top of the flagpole with the remotely connected bushing, and slide it into the hitch-mounted flagpole holder. But if we're at a location like we are right now, where there's trees at the back of our campsite, that's not going to work so well because I can't get up high enough to get over those trees to get a good clear sight of the northern sky with the dish. So we move to the front of the RV. Now I have a travel trailer, and if you have a fifth wheel, hold on, I've got an adaptation of how I do this to be able to work for you. Now definitely compare and contrast things. Manufacturers often change dimensions or sizes of things. I'll put examples of all the equipment I used in the description below. Make sure you do some measurements and verify that the pieces you're buying are going to fit together and that they're going to be a cohesive unit for you to use Starlink on the top of one of these telescoping flagpoles. But the way that I connect it to the front of the dish is using that same flagpole and remotely connected bushing to get the dish up and telescoping up and over obstructions. But I use a large diameter tire mount flagpole holder. I set that underneath the tongue jack of my travel trailer and then slide the flagpole into that as well. It gives me ultimately the same setup as the back of the RV, just on the front of the RV. And the only thing that I need to do is take that tire mount flagpole holder and slide it underneath the jack foot, and then we're good to go. Now I do wish, based off of how big a lever a flagpole can be, that the base of the flagpole holder for the tire mount version was a little bit thicker. It seems to twist a little bit if you pull on it from up high. However, you just get it right up close to that jack pad, and it provides enough support that we use it on the front of the RV just as easily as we do on the back of the RV. Now, this works for travel trailers that have a tongue jack. If you don't have a tongue jack and you have a fifth wheel, what I would do is get a piece of pressure treated 2x10. I would bolt this tire mount to that 2x10, make it as long as you need to then put under one of your pieces of landing gear and extend that flagpole out. So now you can have the flagpole running up the side of your fifth wheel, pinched underneath the landing gear. And if you have a motorhome, you could look at installing a receiver hitch on the front of your vehicle in the grill. Then you could take the flagpole mount and install off the front in front of the windshield. I've also thought about getting a receiver tube welded or bolted onto my trailer frame off of the side. That way I could run the flagpole holder on the side but still have it mounted to the frame of the trailer. You might run into an issue with shank length at that point and have to put an extension on, but it could be an option. Now, as far as how we store Starlink while we're traveling, there's lots of options out there. You can get Pelican cases with removable foam to get it all nestled in and airtight, watertight. There's a really nice Husky brand container at Home Depot that a lot of folks are using. I've had good luck with just the black and yellow 17-gallon tote from the hardware store that I took the inserts out of the Starlink box that it came shipped in, set them in there, put the tote on top. It's totally ubiquitous, doesn't look out of place at the campground. And then if I need another bin for another reason while Starlink is up, I can just take the inserts out and use that bin as well. Now, as one more gee-whiz option for mounting the Starlink satellite dish to your RV without drilling into anything, I'm going to offer this suggestion. For the first 6 weeks that we had our Starlink, we didn't have the hitch mount on the back or the tire mount for the front to be able to mount the Starlink. So what I did is I actually put it into the metal stand that came with Starlink. I climbed up on top of the roof and I set it on top of my air conditioning housing. Then I took a ratchet strap and I wrapped it around the stem and then hooked it to the metal base of my RV air conditioner, not the plastic top. And it sat on just the highest point of my RV and got good signal and good connection at the site we were at. Now, some people have expressed that the vibrations from a running air conditioner can wreak havoc on the motors of the Starlink satellite dish. I don't have enough experience of using it that way to confirm or deny those claims, but just know that that's a possibility that some people have expressed concerns about. And ultimately, if you're in a climate where you're not using your air conditioner, then you wouldn't have to worry about it either. So just another option of basically a free way to use it out there. Grab some rope or ratchet strap and attach it to the top of your RV air conditioner. I like this better than just setting it up on the roof because we went through several thunderstorms and the dish didn't move. I would not have been as confident in it sitting up on the RV, one, of blowing off the RV and then crashing down and breaking the dish, but two, of rubbing through the protective roof on my RV and then causing more problems than I anticipated by just setting something up on the roof membrane. So what's next for me and Starlink? I'm cutting the power over Ethernet cord and putting in some different connectors. The connectors that are at the ends of the power cord that comes with Starlink are proprietary, and a lot of people had trouble with them breaking or failing or wiggling loose. And so the more you can leave it connected into the router and into the satellite dish, the less problems you have. And so a lot of people are using different network connections that are made to be plugged in and out constantly over time, splicing the cord, adding those connections in, and then using that to plug in and out. Just trying to change to something that's a bit more appropriate for the constant plugging in, taking out, setting up, tearing down style of how I'm using my Starlink as a nomadic RVer. So if this video presented you with some new ideas or you got some value from it in some way, make sure you show some appreciation down below. Like the video, share with some friends, and consider subscribing to the channel. That's all I have for today. Hopefully you got some value out of this video. Take care and happy trails.